Good evening from Sydney. Many people trying to lose belly fat make what I call the number one mistake. They eat too little protein. They cut calories, they cut fat, they cut carbohydrates, but they also cut protein. And when protein is too low, the body does not burn fat efficiently. Instead, it loses muscle. Muscle is your metabolic engine. It is your biggest glucose sink, your biggest calorie burner, and one of your strongest protections against insulin resistance as we age. When protein intake is low, three things happen. First, hunger hormones rise, so cravings and overeating becomes more likely. Second, resting metabolism slows because muscle mass is lost. Third, fat loss becomes harder even if you are exercising. So, before we talk about fasting, exercise, or calorie control, the foundation is this: adequate protein at every stage of life, especially after 40 and 50, is essential for fat loss, strength, and long term metabolic health. Fat loss is not about eating less food, it's about eating the right food in the right proportion, and protein must come first. Compiled by Dr. Siva Navaratnam and ChatGPT, my educational partner. This talk is based on an article written in the Journal of Internal Sports Nutrition. Whether you are metabolically healthy, overweight, or insulin resistant, the most common and most damaging mistake in fat loss is the same: too little protein. Most people think fat loss is about cutting calories. Some think it is about cutting fat. Others think it is about cutting carbohydrates. But very often they end up cutting proteins as well. And that is where the problem begins. Protein is not just a nutrient, it is a signal. It tells your body to preserve muscle. It tells your brain that you are full. It stabilizes blood sugar. And it keeps your metabolic rate from slowing down during weight loss. When protein intake is too low, muscle is lost along with fat. Resting energy expenditure falls. Hunger and cravings increase. Long-term fat loss becomes harder to sustain. That is why in every successful fat loss strategy across all dietary styles, low carb, Mediterranean, vegetarian, or mixed diet, adequate protein is always the foundation. So the first principle is simple. Before worrying about calories, meal timing, or exercise intensity, make sure your protein intake is sufficient and consistent. Protein is not optional. It is the cornerstone of healthy, sustainable fat loss. Not everyone is trying to lose fat is starting from the same metabolic place. Broadly, there are two groups. The first group is metabolically healthy. Their insulin response is relatively normal. Their muscles respond well to glucose and their hormonal signals are still well regulated. The second group is insulin resistant. They may have central obesity, fatty liver, high triglycerides, low HDL, or elevated fasting glucose. Their insulin levels are high and the fat is locked in more easily. Now here is the key message. Protein is essential for both groups, but the strategy around carbohydrates, meal timing, and fasting may differ. For the metabolically healthy person, adequate protein supports muscle, satiety, and gradual fat loss. For the insulin resistant person, adequate protein is even more critical because it preserves muscle while insulin levels are being brought down through dietary change, reduced snacking, and improved metabolic flexibility. So we do not use a one-size-fits-all approach. Same foundation, protein, different starting points, different strategy. Same goal, preserve muscle, reduce fat, and restore metabolic health. Pathway 1. Those who are metabolically healthy. For people who are metabolically healthy, the main goal of fat loss is simple. Keep muscle and burn fat. The foundation is adequate protein, typically in the range of about 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. This level of protein sends a powerful signal to the body to preserve lean muscle while in a mild caloric deficit. The second key pillar is resistance or muscle loading exercise. This tells the body, this muscle is needed. Do not break it down. Muscle is your metabolic engine and your long-term protection against insulin resistance and frailty. Next is a small, sustainable calorie deficit, not starvation. We want slow, steady fat loss without triggering stress response or muscle breakdown. And finally, good sleep and recovery. Poor sleep raises cortisol, increases hunger, worsens insulin sensitivity, and directly blocks fat loss. So the message for the metabolically healthy person is adequate protein, progressive resistance exercise, a gentle calorie deficit, and good sleep. The signal we are giving the body is very clear. Keep muscle, burn fat. For the people who are insulin resistant, the starting point is different. Fat loss is not just a calorie issue, it is a hormonal issue. Here, the primary focus is to reduce repeated spikes of glucose, insulin, and cortisol. When insulin stays high, the fat is locked in and cannot be easily released. So the first step is to control carbohydrate quantity and timing. Not eliminate nutrition, but reduce frequent high glycemic loads and constant snacking. Protein remains essential, usually around 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram per day, to preserve muscle and control hunger. But the bigger strategy is to prioritize protein first, then fiber, then healthy fats. This combination slows digestion, blunts glucose spikes, and improves insulin signaling. Simple habits matter greatly. Walking after meals acts like natural insulin, pushing glucose into the muscle without extra insulin. Resistance training and building muscle increase your glucose disposal capacity and raise metabolic rate. So for insulin resistance, the order is important. First, stabilize hormones, lower insulin, lower cortisol spikes, improve muscle insulin sensitivity, and then fat loss follows naturally. In short, for this group, we don't chase fat loss directly. We fix the hormonal environment first, and the fat loss comes as a consequence. Whether someone is metabolically healthy or insulin resistant, there is one principle that applies to everyone. Protein is the foundation. Protein protects muscles, and the muscle is the organ of longevity. It is the largest site of glucose disposal, the biggest contributor to resting metabolic rate, and a key protector against frailty, falls, and insulin resistance as we age. Protein also protects metabolism. When protein intake is too low, the body adapts by lowering energy expenditure, increasing hunger, and breaking down lean tissue. This is why many people plateau or regain weight after dieting. Adequate protein supports fat loss by improving satiety, reducing cravings, stabilizing blood sugar, and preserving lean mass during weight loss. And beyond weight, protein supports healthy aging, strength, immunity, recovery, and functional independence. So the contrast is simple. Starvation and severe restriction lead to muscle loss, weakness, hormonal disruption, and metabolic slowdown. Protein, on the other hand, preserves structure, function, and resilience. In short, starvation makes the body smaller and weaker. Protein helps the body become leaner, stronger, and healthier. Thank you for watching.